This is the third edition of Coffee with Creators. Wow, can't believe we've gotten so far. Today we've got a very interesting guest who's gonna be a part of this. We've got Shri Illustrator, who's basically Srishti Gupta Roy. This is gonna be very interesting because I have never ever met her or spoken to her in my life except on chat. So I have no idea what to expect, and her art is what speaks for her all this while, which has been very interesting. So now is the time to find out exactly what it's about. Let's go. Let's bring her in. Ha! Fast forward, May. I have never met you before, never spoken to you before,
Yes,
except
yes.
this right now, and I have no idea what to expect having this conversation with you.
Even I don't know what to expect. So that makes two of us.
So tell me a little more than what your Instagram lets out. Okay, for all of you who don't know Shri Illustrator or haven't seen her profile ever, she explains her profile as making sense of existential crisis through art. And your pieces are phenomenal. In fact, I am so colorful because I had to match up with your art pieces right now. So
Oh
tell
yeah,
me a little more
it's
about
damn good.
yourself. So tell
Um,
me more about you, Shri.
so I'm essentially like a visual artist and illustrator, and my
Mm-hmm.
background in terms of like what I studied in college was fashion design. So it's kind of somewhat of a natural progression from what I did and what I worked in. And yeah, so this page is like relatively new. It's only 3 years old. I've always been interested in art and design in some way or the other. And
Mm-hmm.
I'd never thought that I would be professionally doing this, but all the stars aligned and some decisions were made without realizing the repercussions of those decisions. And I'm here now.
And you're killing it. And you're also a fashion designer, but off late you've been doing this little series called What the Fuck Fashion, like WTF Fashion,
Yeah.
where you've been picking on some big ass brands who've been putting out some really absurd pieces in the name of fashion on their ramps. Where is that coming from for
So
you?
see, when I worked in fashion also, there was like we have this tendency to take ourselves very seriously, like we're solving like cancer or something, but finding a cure for cancer. But in reality, we're making clothes for self-expression, and a lot of it is super funny. So sometimes when you're in those meetings and you're hearing people talk about their concepts, you're like, I mean, it's okay, let's over intellectualize it, but at the end of the day, it's just clothes. And I find it hysterical when I can make fun of high fashion brands and make it probably more relatable to people who are not from the domain. And most of it is like so hysterical on its own and it's so funny. So it seemed like a natural progression in the world of memes that why should fashion be left behind? So
Right.
yeah, so that's kind of what happened. I started off very casually, but I'm doing it more actively now because there are so many brands to be made fun of. So little time.
And talking of brands, you are one of those few visual artists that I have seen who actually does a lot of work with brands. Like I've seen
Mhm.
your work with Adidas. In fact, the way I knew about you was when Google sent me a calendar, which was the
Yeah,
whole work offline wala calendar. So ironical, right? That was
yeah,
2019, telling people
yeah,
to get offline, and now here we are
yeah.
saying stay online. But anyway, I saw your artwork in that calendar in one of the months.
Mhm.
It caught my eye. I checked you out on Instagram and I was like, oh, cool work. And then I've seen you do stuff with Adidas, Levi's, and one thing that I have noticed is that your art style manages to stick through. And as an artist, a lot of times the complaint is that the brand tries to overpower what the artist
Mhm.
has to say, and you
Mhm.
lose your voice in it.
Mhm.
So,
Haven't taken up a project, say for instance, like say branding for something completely, because there I understand that you oftentimes have to let go of your pre-existing style to cater to the brand more. But in case of the project that you're mentioning with Levi's and Adidas and Netflix, they are more than keen on having me on board for the particular visual language that I bring. So it's not been too much of a struggle till now. But I'm sure once the bigger projects come, it will be harder.
no, I'm sure it's gonna be easy joy and glory because, like you said, the brands see your work in country, so they know what to expect from you.
Exactly. And I don't want to like give up on that because then, I mean, I don't want to replicate or like be taking, because that's not fair to the other artist also, and that's not fair to eventually what I want to do.
Right. But I mean, okay, so whatever I've been seeing of your gram, I've often seen your stories. Your stories are very wacky. Your stories are sometimes borderline crazy. And right now, I'm seeing this extremely stoic and to the point, Shri. Um, how many sides do you have? I mean, everyone has sides, but how many sides would you broadly categorize yourself as?
Right now, I mean, it just feels very tone deaf to be wacky. I don't know. It's a, I mean, I'm sure you're also facing some version of it in your social media life that is it the right time to be putting out certain things which people would classify as a little outrageous and probably tone deaf. But in terms of how much I'm pretty much, I think, fairly authentic on social media, but on my Instagram art page, I'm very curated. So there's a lot of stuff that I record, but I don't end up putting out there because in my head, I still want it to be a very curated art page with like maybe
Mm-hmm.
2 or 3% of my personal life, but the rest 97% should be in the art and fashion domain because I feel that's what people follow me for. So I don't want to inundate them personally with like 8 pictures of me partying and like 4 pictures of me like, oh, should I wear this or should I wear that? So not the brand. But on my personal page, I do that, which very few people know, but not on this page.
But so I have seen your art page. You've managed to let yourself in, like physically, into your page a little bit through
Mm.
reels, and you're one of those few people who've kept their reels off the
Of
display
the
of grid, and you managed the grid to look a certain uniform way. How much planning goes into your Instagram?
no,
Like
man, I
the way.
started with a lot of this dedication that I'll like plan my grid of reels, and my reels personality will be different from my Instagram stories personality, will be different from my artwork personality. But after I think about 5 or 6 reels, I was like, not happening. So there was planning then, and I wanted my reels to be just more of like a uh, insight into my personal life and my friends and my family. And because luckily the reels thing doesn't come on your grid, Instagram grid, if you don't want it to. So
Yes.
that was the little bit of planning that went then, but there's no planning right now. If you look right now, you'll be like, there was a point you can see distinctly she tried till this point, and then you're like, this is the point I think she gave up.
And you really like socializing and partying from what I can tell. I don't know you. I'm just, again, assimilating
Gauging.
information from your gram. You like it, but at the same time, you don't like it a lot. And how has this pandemic made you feel now?
Yeah, I mean, I like socializing. I would call myself more on the extrovert side of things than introvert. And I mean, it's okay, honestly. Like right now, it doesn't feel like I'm missing partying because I'm so goddamn scared of the disease and what's happening that that's not in my scheme of things. But yeah, I do enjoy like going out and socializing. Like if I had to put myself on the overall social spectrum, I'm pretty social. I'm glad my
Okay.
social media is also giving that vibe. Because sometimes I think that maybe people will think that I only sit at home. I like it, but I like going to the parties and more than like being the one who is like having the most fun. Probably I'm the one who's observing people and going like, "You'll make a really good post in 2 weeks. You wait and watch."
Yes, I've
Yeah,
seen you do that. You like to
yeah,
watch people and anyway. So
yeah.
lockdown one, when it
Hmm.
hit, um, how did it affect you when it started, and how did you cope with it through the first lockdown?
Yeah. So the first lockdown happened actually just about 2.5, 3 months after I got married. So there was like
Mm-hmm.
a consolidated time period that was spent with the in-laws. So which was supposed to be like, like every weekend over 6 months became like, okay, now 2 months, these are your in-laws, just become friends with them. So like it was, that was the experience that I personally had that time. So, I mean, these are like my husband's parents I barely knew. So it was just like 3 months of consolidated time with them, which was good because in a way I feel like I finished my quota for the year. It was supposed to be spread out over like 1 year. I'm like, see, 3 months we did consolidated. But there was, I think, overall for everybody, there was a sense of novelty with that lockdown. And there was some amount of, oh, we're in this together. The whole world is shut down completely together. And I don't want to use the word positive, but in retrospect to what it is now, probably that would be the word. That people were like, oh, we've got free time, we don't have work anymore, we have much less work. Let's try to explore our hobbies, which means what I tried, I got back to embroidery a little bit. So the vibe that time seemed more self-explanatory, yeah, self-explanatory and just more yeah, uplifting in a way. But this particular lockdown is the polar opposite of that. I mean, yeah, and I'm sure you're also feeling some version of that happening with you too.
I just made a show about my existential crisis because I was confused on what the hell should I put up, and I need to do something all the time,
Yeah,
otherwise I go crazy. I
yeah,
lose my mind if I'm not working. That's
yeah,
what
same.
happened with me in the first lockdown. I just like slumped and I became a potato and then questioned why I became a potato when it was a personal choice.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
this
yeah, yeah.
lockdown is about not doing any of that, and which is why like I had
Okay, so
questions like,
your
okay,
lockdown experience was quite different then. Like
yeah.
like this is the one that's being more productive in a way.
Yeah, but at the same time, you can't deny, like, I mean, literally, I think above me there are coronavirus patients staying in
Yeah,
the house above, and it's a lot closer
yeah. It's
than
not. It's
the
not the
first lockdown was.
correct. It's not like first lockdown. I feel the stories we heard were like this person's friend's uncle got COVID, and this time it's like your parents have COVID. Like there is a distinct circle of like closeness the virus has come to.
Right, and that makes it a little more real than it ever was for some
Yeah,
reason, doesn't
yeah.
it? So does it give you a sense of dread?
Personally, yes. I mean, I can't sugarcoat this too much because I feel like last year I was personally a little cocky about the disease also because whatever cases I had heard, most people were either asymptomatic
Recovering.
or recovering fairly easily. So you kind of feel a little like, okay, I mean, we're young, we're sort of healthy, so we should be fine. But this time, the kind of stories and the kind of overall news that's coming in seems very
Mm-hmm.
different. There are so many younger people I know who got affected really badly, and the constant messages and the constant requests that you get. I mean, I can't help but feeling a sense of dread right now because there is no sense, okay, like we're going to do this for 3 more months and then things will be all right. Nobody knows when that time is going to come where that sense of normalcy of 2019 can be balanced. So I feel like I'm petrified this time. Like I have no sense of cockiness with the virus anymore. Like
And how are you coping with it on a personal level? Like, what are
like you
you
said, like
doing?
even my main like thing is that I have to do work all the time. So I keep giving myself some project with like a very clear deadline that this is the day I need to finish something by. So I just started doing like a wall mural at home, which I've been putting off for quite some time. The idea is just to, in a way, distract yourself till the worst passes. I mean, though it's
Mm-hmm.
not the best coping mechanism in the long run, but for now it's okay. Just keep occupying like every breathing second doing something so that you don't get into that headspace probably in a way for now. I mean, I don't know how conducive it is for like I don't think I can do it for 6 months, but for a burst of like 1 2 months I think it's not a bad thing to be distracted and give yourself projects which you've probably been putting off.
Fair enough. And between lockdown one to lockdown two, when things sort of got a semblance of
Yeah,
normalcy,
yeah.
at what was your initial reaction to when that started being snatched away? And not so much as like, so the first lockdown was where the government was taking it from you, and you were like, oh shit, we have to stay at home, and oh my God,
Yeah,
20 more days, 15 more days. But the
correct.
second lockdown was more like we were happy that there is a lockdown, so we don't have
Sure.
to
Yeah.
be out there. So, how did that go about for you? The transition from lockdown, which was imposed on you, to normalcy, to lockdown, which you were happy for, almost.
Yeah, I think it's like a byproduct of probably the news cycle also, right? Because in the first lockdown, it seemed like we were doing fairly well, and we were all, and there was a sense of like, oh my God, why is the lockdown for so long? The government's not understanding. There's going to be so much economic repercussions. Everybody's salary was half. But this time, because of the news and the kind of devastation that you see, automatically you're almost scared to go out. So I don't feel like it's snatched away. Like right now, if somebody gave me the option also of going and meeting 5 people, I'll be like, hell no. So I think that fear cycle's probably caught on with a lot of people who, but in the middle, I mean, when things were better, it's not like I did not meet people. It's not like I did not travel. I did do those things and probably took a lot of like, in my head, calculated risks, but in retrospect, like really foolish decisions. And I'm just so glad nothing happened. So now I don't want to be that level of frivolous with my health that I was.
And I mean, we had a sense of privilege the first time around, especially when um, we weren't the ones getting directly affected. Do you feel
Correct.
like your privilege is kind of slipping away from under your feet right now?
Yeah, 100% probably. I mean, we all have this almost like this blanket of illusion that because we have certain connections, or probably we come from decently well-to-do families, that in case there is a situation where somebody at least needs to go to the hospital, as basic as that, we will figure out a way. But right now, honestly, the ground level situation does not warrant that in any way whatsoever. So yeah, you feel like your privilege slipping away in case there is a situation where there could be something serious. Yeah, for sure. And I think that's what's been like scary to a lot of people, and that's what's been going around. That the reason why there's so much more probably paranoia in a certain way is because a lot of privileged people have realized that you can't, it's not that easy for people apart from us. And even now, like, in Bangalore, like everybody's constantly talking about getting vaccinated. With my personal experience, it's impossible to get a slot in Bangalore. So you try your little tricks where you're like talking to like some doctor friend or some doctor relative, like, oh, can you like slip me a vaccination? I'll skip the queue, and you're still trying, and they're like, no, hell to the no, it's not happening. Like you have to stand in queue and get a slot. So then you realize, okay, all these tricks that you had up your sleeve that you thought ultimately doesn't matter.
Wow. And what kind of content do you consume? What's your Instagram like when you open your
Mhm.
gram, not just to post content but to
Yeah.
scroll? What's the kind of content that you generally consume?
So I don't consume reels at all. I find the format very, it's too fast for my taste. I think I'm moving more towards like the boomer mentality than millennial. So I mainly consume a lot of art and fashion, and
Mm-hmm.
like looking at like runway shows of what's happening around the world. Then probably like I have like these list of like international as well as domestic artists. What did I just spoke of? Domestic artists who I follow, and I mean, yeah, comedy content to a certain extent for sure, but
Mm-hmm.
it's primarily more focused towards art and like a lot of DIY art, like how people make like crafts and stuff like that. Like that's probably what comes more on my explore page, and of course, once in a while, there's a lot of like Bollywood gossip that you see
You
two of those
almost
quotas.
you almost seem a little like yes, a little Bollywood along the way. I don't want to look into the
Yeah, you
camera at
want to
this.
open two of these viral man or someone's photo, and your explore page is just pictures of celebrities. You can't escape
Going
it.
to the gym.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, fine. I mean, if this is what they think I'm into, I'll consume it. It's fine.
Apparently, someone's saying that you consume cringe TikTok content and you love doing that as well.
Yeah, that's true. That was TikTok. Reels doesn't give me the joy that TikTok content did.
Really? Is your phone becoming an agent of depression?
Mm, I mean,
Or at least your social media, not the phone necessarily.
no, I don't think for me, like, it is not really, no. I mean, there's a lot of doom scrolling that is happening,
Yeah.
and there is a sense of anxiety because of it. But on the other side, I think that if I did not get this information from the phone, it's not like the information wouldn't exist. So I'm choosing to consume that information because I want to be updated about what's going on, whether it's politically, whether it's with the pandemic situation. Like I want to consume the content because I want to be up to date with what's happening, probably in real time. So if
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing that, the anxiety is not because of the phone; it's because how I'm choosing to react to it. So that I know personally for me, it's not reached that point, but I know for a lot of people during this phase, they did consciously switch off from their phone because it was becoming a point of, yeah, it was becoming like a source of anxiety in a certain way. But I don't feel that with me now. But that doesn't mean
Mm-hmm.
that in about 2-3 weeks I won't. I might feel that.
I hope you don't.
Yeah.
But and when it comes to being offline and off the phone, how do you like besides your art, what else do you consume in terms of content that keeps you occupied, keeps you in a decent place? I mean,
I like watching like a lot of these documentaries probably on Netflix, and like I'm like a secret conspiracy theory nut.
oh,
And
Seaspiracy is your jam.
yeah, I mean, basically, stop eating food, stop eating anything is the conclusion of most of these documentaries. Everything is bad for you, and the environment is the underlying point. But yeah, I like watching a lot of documentaries on Netflix and just generally any of the OTT platforms. And I try to read, but I'm not doing like too good of a job. I don't think I ever was like a voracious reader, like a very of yeah, sporadic reader. And
Mm-hmm.
apart from that, and I like listening to podcasts. Like I just generally like more like interview based podcasts and stuff. Just nothing major. I'm just literally
Mm-hmm.
thinking that am I ever without a screen? And the daunting answer I think is no.
I think that's
I'm
most of
trying to
us
sound
right
more
now.
intelligent, and I'm like nothing's coming to my head, which is like a good thing, which will make me sound more profound. Nothing.
But I mean, I guess right now is one of those times where, I mean, earlier a lot of us were thinking like, hey, okay, 2020 was the year which was supposed to be the skip year.
Yeah,
Screw it.
correct. Yeah,
But
yeah,
then came in 2021, and it's just another level. Like, I mean, like with Samantha, we spoke about 2020 was like the trailer, and this is like the movie
yeah,
right now.
yeah. Except the
And
movie and the trailer are like, when the movie is way worse than the trailer, like, which usually does happen.
isn't that most movies
Yeah,
these
most of
days?
the time.
Because you literally show the full movie in the trailer and then
That's
nothing.
true. I don't
And
know what
do
that's
you
about though.
like talk about movies? Do you miss going to the cinemas? Were you ever